The
I'm here to
marble
fix the air
floors of
conditioning.
Whitmore
It
Manor
seems to be
gleamed under
malfunctioning.
crystal
Oh,
chandeliers
thank goodness.
as
It's been so
Victoria
warm in
Whitmore
here.
paced
I'll
anxiously
get
through
right
her
on it.
family's sprawling estate in the exclusive Hamptons. At 29, she was the heiress to a textile fortune built over 4 generations. But today, all her wealth couldn't solve a simple plumbing crisis that threatened to ruin her mother's annual charity gala scheduled for that evening. Miss Whitmore, the main powder room is completely flooded, and water is seeping into the library, announced Margaret, the head housekeeper, her voice tight with concern. We've called 3 emergency plumbers, but none can come until tomorrow. Victoria felt panic rising in her chest. 300 of New York's social elite would arrive in 6 hours for the prestigious Whitmore Foundation benefit, an event that raised millions for children's education and had been planned for 8 months. A flooded mansion would be a social disaster that could damage her family's reputation for decades. What about the backup powder rooms on the 2nd floor? Victoria asked, mentally calculating how to redirect guest traffic through the mansion's labyrinthine layout. The flooding has affected the main water line. We're losing pressure throughout the entire east wing, Margaret replied grimly. I'm afraid we might need to postpone the event. 20 minutes later, salvation arrived in the form of Antonio's emergency plumbing services van, pulling up the circular driveway. Victoria watched from the grand foyer windows as a tall black man in work clothes gathered his tools and approached the front entrance with confident professionalism. When Margaret escorted him through the marble entryway, Victoria found herself unexpectedly struck by his presence. At 31, Marcus Rivera carried himself with quiet authority despite being surrounded by opulence that probably exceeded his annual income. His dark eyes assessed the situation with intelligent focus, and his calm demeanor created a pocket of stability in her panic-filled afternoon. Miss Whitmore, I'm Marcus Rivera from Antonio's Plumbing. I understand you're having some water pressure issues that need immediate attention. Victoria had expected the typical subservient manner she encountered with most service workers, but Marcus addressed her with respectful professionalism while maintaining confident eye contact. Something about his natural dignity and competent bearing caught her off guard. Yes, we have a charity event tonight with 300 guests, and our main plumbing system has failed catastrophically. Victoria heard the desperation in her own voice. Can you actually fix this? Or should I start calling guests to cancel? Let me assess the situation before we make any drastic decisions, Marcus replied, his voice steady and reassuring. Most plumbing crises look worse than they actually are. Sometimes the solution is simpler than people expect. For the next 30 minutes, Victoria found herself following Marcus through her family's mansion as he methodically diagnosed the problem, explaining each step of his investigation in terms she could understand. Despite the mansion's grandeur, he moved through the space with professional focus, treating their crisis as genuinely important rather than just another service call. I found the main issue, Marcus announced, emerging from the basement utility room with a small piece of broken pipe. Your main shutoff valve failed, but the damage is localized. I can have this repaired and your water pressure restored within 2 hours. Victoria stared at him in amazement. 2 hours? Are you certain? Absolutely. You'll have full water service throughout the house well before your guests arrive. Marcus smiled, and Victoria felt an unexpected flutter in her chest at the warmth and confidence in his expression. As he began gathering his repair equipment, Victoria found herself studying his profile. I didn't expect you to be this attractive, she said, then immediately blushed at her own boldness. Marcus looked up with surprise and amusement. Thank you, Miss Whitmore. That's not usually part of plumbing service reviews. I'm sorry, that was completely inappropriate, Victoria said, mortified by her uncharacteristic lack of filter. No offense taken. I'm just glad I can help save your event tonight. Marcus's smile was both professional and genuinely kind. Sometimes crises bring out unexpected honesty in people. As Victoria returned to her event preparations, she found herself thinking about Marcus's calm competence and natural charm. In her world of inherited wealth and social performance, genuine skill and authentic confidence were surprisingly rare qualities. Hello, my Stop Racism family. Thank you for tuning in today. Before we dive deeper into this beautiful love story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the story so far? Do you believe love can truly conquer prejudice? Let us know in the comments. We love reading them. And trust me, your words motivate us to keep making these videos. Let's make this video reach at least 50 comments. Your support means the world to us, and it drives us to create even more meaningful content for you. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep spreading love. 2 days after the successful charity gala, Victoria sat in her private study reviewing foundation reports while trying to focus on anything other than her embarrassing encounter with the plumber. She had never made such a forward comment to any man, let alone someone from such a different social background. Her mother, Caroline Whitmore, swept into the study with her usual elegant authority and a stack of society magazines featuring photographs from the benefit. Darling, the gala was absolutely perfect. Everyone is still talking about how smoothly everything went, despite the plumbing emergency. Caroline settled into the antique chair across from Victoria's desk. Speaking of which, we should send a proper thank you note to that plumber. His quick work saved our reputation. Victoria tried to appear casual. I'll have Margaret handle that. Actually, I wanted to discuss something more important. William Ashford called yesterday asking about your availability for dinner this weekend. Caroline's eyes sparkled with matchmaking enthusiasm. He's perfect for you, Victoria. Harvard Law, family and banking, and his trust fund could complement ours beautifully. Victoria had known William since childhood through their interconnected social circles. He was handsome, appropriate, and utterly predictable. Everything her family expected in a future son-in-law. William is suitable, Victoria said diplomatically. Suitable? Darling, he's ideal. You need someone who understands your social responsibilities, someone who can match your family background and cultural sophistication. Caroline's voice carried decades of social wisdom. Love grows from compatibility and shared experiences. When people come from similar worlds, they understand each other's obligations and expectations. That afternoon brought a call from Victoria's best friend, Stephanie Blackwell, who had attended the gala and was full of romantic speculation. Victoria, I saw how William was looking at you Saturday night. He's clearly ready to move beyond friendship into something more serious. Stephanie's voice bubbled with excitement. You two would make such an elegant couple. Both from old families, both committed to philanthropy, both understanding the responsibilities that come with wealth. I suppose we're compatible on paper, Victoria replied, staring out her window at the manicured gardens her family had maintained for generations. Compatible on paper and in reality. What more do you need? William will never be threatened by your inheritance or compete with your foundation work. He understands our world in a way that outsiders simply cannot. Later that evening, Victoria found herself thinking about her mother's and Stephanie's certainty that romantic success came from social similarity. They seemed convinced that lasting relationships required identical backgrounds, matching trust funds, and shared country club memberships. Her phone buzzed with a text from William. Victoria, I hope Saturday's event was as successful as it appeared. I'd love to take you to dinner at Le Bernardin this weekend to discuss some philanthropic collaboration ideas I've been developing. Victoria studied the message, noting how even William's romantic overtures were framed in terms of social appropriateness and charitable networking. She tried to imagine feeling genuinely excited about spending personal time with him, but could only summon polite interest. As she prepared for bed in her family's historic mansion, Victoria wondered if everyone was right about choosing partners based on social compatibility and family approval. Maybe she was being unrealistic to hope for genuine chemistry and authentic connection. But she couldn't stop thinking about Marcus Rivera's natural confidence and the way his competence had made her feel both impressed and unexpectedly attracted to his authentic professionalism. A week later, Victoria's morning routine was disrupted when the mansion's main kitchen sink began backing up during preparations for her monthly book club meeting. 8 prominent ladies from the Historical Society would arrive in 3 hours, expecting elegant refreshments and the catering staff was panicking about their inability to properly clean dishes and glassware. "Miss Victoria, we need a plumber immediately," announced Chef Henri with obvious distress. "The entire kitchen drainage system appears to be failing, and we cannot serve your guests properly without running water." Victoria immediately thought of Marcus Rivera's competent repair work the previous week. Despite Margaret's suggestions to call their regular service company, Victoria found herself specifically requesting Antonio's emergency plumbing. An hour later, Marcus arrived at the service entrance carrying his toolkit and wearing the same professional demeanor she remembered. Victoria met him in the kitchen, ostensibly to explain the problem, but privately curious to see him again. "Miss Whitmore, kitchen drain issues can usually be resolved quickly," Marcus said, examining the backed-up sink with practiced expertise. "Mind if I ask what kind of event you're preparing for?" "My monthly book club. We're discussing environmental sustainability in urban development this month." Victoria watched as Marcus methodically tested different aspects of the drainage system. "That's a fascinating topic. I've been reading about green infrastructure and sustainable building practices in my spare time." Marcus looked up with genuine interest. "Are you focusing on residential or commercial development approaches?" Victoria stared at him in surprise. "You read about urban planning." "I'm actually studying for my contractor's license and eventually want to start my own business focusing on eco-friendly plumbing solutions." Marcus's eyes lit up as he spoke about his goals. Traditional plumbing wastes enormous amounts of water and energy. There are innovative approaches that could reduce environmental impact while saving homeowners money. As Marcus worked on the drain system, they found themselves in an engaging conversation about water conservation, renewable energy systems, and sustainable construction methods. Victoria was amazed by his knowledge and thoughtful perspectives on environmental issues. "You know more about green building than most of the architects my family has hired," Victoria said, genuinely impressed. "I may not have formal credentials, but I believe in learning about things that interest me." Marcus smiled as water began. "Does water flowing properly through the drain? There, your kitchen should be fully functional for your book club meeting." "Marcus, can I ask you something? Where did you develop this interest in environmental sustainability?" "Growing up in a neighborhood where utility bills consumed huge portions of family budgets, I watched my neighbors struggle with high water and energy costs while living in inefficient housing." His voice carried passionate commitment. "I want to create affordable solutions that help working families reduce their environmental impact while saving money." As they talked, Victoria realized she was having the most intellectually stimulating conversation she'd had in months. Marcus asked thoughtful questions about her foundation work and seemed genuinely interested in her perspectives on social responsibility. "I should let you get back to your event preparations," Marcus said finally, gathering his tools. "But I'd love to hear more about your book club sustainability discussions sometime. Would you like to join us? I mean, if you're interested in the topic." Victoria surprised herself with the spontaneous invitation. Marcus looked both flattered and uncertain. "That's very kind, but I'm not sure I'd fit in with your social group. Intelligence and genuine interest in important topics are the only qualifications that matter," Victoria replied, meaning every word. As Marcus left that afternoon, Victoria realized she felt more intellectually energized than she had in years. For the first time, she began to question whether social compatibility was really more important than genuine intellectual connection and shared values. The following Thursday brought the crisis Victoria had been dreading: a complete heating system failure during the first major cold snap of autumn. With overnight temperatures dropping into the 20s and her elderly grandmother visiting for an extended stay, the mansion's lack of heat was becoming a genuine emergency. "Miss Victoria, the entire heating system has shut down," Margaret reported with obvious concern. "Mrs. Whitmore Sr. is not comfortable in these temperatures, and the regular heating company can't come until tomorrow afternoon." Victoria immediately called Antonio's Plumbing, specifically requesting Marcus's expertise with complex residential systems. When he arrived 2 hours later, she felt overwhelming relief at seeing his competent, calm presence. "This is a pretty serious situation," Marcus said after examining the mansion's elaborate heating infrastructure. Your boiler system is over 50 years old and requires specialized knowledge to repair safely. For the next 4 hours, Victoria found herself working as Marcus's assistant, holding flashlights in the basement utility rooms and helping him navigate the mansion's complex mechanical systems. Despite the crisis, she was fascinated by his methodical problem-solving approach and impressed by his extensive knowledge of heating, plumbing, and electrical systems. You really understand all of these interconnected systems, Victoria observed, as Marcus explained how the heating, plumbing, and electrical infrastructure worked together. When you grow up in a family that couldn't afford to call specialists for every problem, you learn to understand how things actually work, Marcus replied, adjusting a complex valve system. My father taught me that knowledge and skills are more valuable than money. You can lose money, but you can never lose what you know. As evening approached and Marcus successfully restored heat throughout the mansion, Victoria realized she had spent the most engaging day she'd experienced in years. Working alongside him had felt natural and comfortable in a way that surprised her. Marcus, I don't know how to thank you properly. You've saved my grandmother's health and possibly her life. I'm just glad I could help. Your grandmother seems like a remarkable woman. We had quite a conversation while I was working on the upstairs radiators. She talked to you. Victoria was surprised. Her grandmother rarely engaged with service workers beyond basic courtesy. She told me about your foundation's education programs and how passionate you are about helping underprivileged children access better schools. Marcus's smile was warm and genuine. She's clearly very proud of your work. As they walked through the now warm mansion toward the front door, Victoria felt reluctant to see Marcus leave. Their day together had felt easy and natural, like spending time with someone she had known for years rather than a plumber she had met twice. Marcus, can I ask you something personal? Of course. What do you do when you're not rescuing distressed heiresses from plumbing emergencies? Marcus laughed, a rich sound that made Victoria's heart skip. I study for my contractor's license, volunteer at a community center teaching basic home repair skills, and work on sustainable housing designs that I hope to implement someday. That's incredible. You're building something meaningful beyond just fixing other people's problems. What about you? When you're not managing charity galas and book clubs, what makes you feel alive? The question caught Victoria off guard. No one in her social circle ever asked what made her feel alive. They assumed her fulfillment came from maintaining family traditions and social obligations. Honestly, I haven't felt truly alive in years. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions of a life that was designed for me, rather than chosen by me. Victoria surprised herself with such honest vulnerability. But today, working with you, learning about systems I never understood, that felt real in a way I'd almost forgotten. As Marcus left that evening, Victoria realized she had never felt such a natural connection with anyone. For the first time, she began to wonder if there might be forms of compatibility that had nothing to do with trust funds and country club memberships. Over the next 2 weeks, Victoria found herself creating increasingly creative reasons to call Marcus for minor plumbing consultations. A slow drain in the guest bathroom, unusual water pressure in the morning room, mysterious sounds from the kitchen pipes. She told herself it was practical homeowner maintenance. But deep down, she knew she was seeking excuses to see him again. Each interaction left her feeling more intellectually stimulated and emotionally engaged than months of social events with her usual circle. Marcus treated her like an intelligent person with valuable thoughts, rather than just a wealthy heiress with social obligations. Her growing attraction both thrilled and terrified her. How could she be developing feelings for someone from such a different world? Someone whose life experiences were completely removed from everything she had ever known. This is completely inappropriate, she told her reflection Tuesday morning while choosing her outfit with unusual care. I'm developing a crush on the plumber like some ridiculous romance novel. But even as she tried to rationalize her feelings, she couldn't deny that Marcus had shown her more genuine respect and intellectual engagement than any man in her social circle ever had. The internal conflict intensified when her mother arrived for lunch with obvious excitement and very specific matchmaking plans. "Victoria, darling, William Ashford has planned something quite special for this Saturday evening. He's reserved the entire rooftop restaurant at the St. Regis, just for the two of you with champagne service and a string quartet." Caroline's eyes sparkled with romantic anticipation. "Everyone thinks he's going to propose." Victoria nearly choked on her salad. "Propose? Mother, we've barely dated." "Nonsense, dear. You've known each other since childhood, your families are perfectly matched, and he's clearly serious about building a future together." Caroline pulled out her phone to show engagement party venue photos. "I've already spoken with the wedding planner about spring dates at the country club. Mother, I haven't agreed to marry anyone. Victoria, you're 29 years old and the last of the Whitmore line. It's time to think seriously about marriage and children." Caroline's voice carried family legacy weight. "William is perfect, handsome, wealthy, well-educated, from an excellent family. What possible hesitation could you have?" That afternoon brought an even more pointed conversation when Stephanie called with barely contained excitement. "Victoria, I just spoke with William's sister. He's been shopping for engagement rings. Apparently, he's planning to propose this weekend." Stephanie's voice was breathless with anticipation. "You must be so excited. This is everything you've ever wanted, is it?" Victoria asked quietly. "Of course it is. William understands your world, your responsibilities, your social position. He'll never compete with your foundation work or feel threatened by your inheritance." Stephanie's certainty was absolute. What more could you want in a husband? After hanging up, Victoria sat in her study feeling trapped between everyone's expectations and her own emerging feelings for Marcus. She tried to imagine spending her life with William. Comfortable, predictable, socially appropriate, but emotionally hollow. Then she found herself thinking about Marcus's passionate description of his sustainable housing projects, his genuine curiosity about her foundation work, the way he had made her feel intellectually valued and personally interesting. That evening, she deliberately avoided calling Marcus about the minor bathroom faucet issue she had planned to discuss, instead spending extra time on unnecessary paperwork. She needed to get her feelings under control before she made a terrible mistake that could complicate both their lives. But as she finally went to bed in her family's historic mansion, Victoria realized she was falling in love with a man who represented everything her world would consider inappropriate, and she was becoming her own weakness in ways she had never expected. Friday afternoon, Victoria made a decision that surprised even herself. Instead of preparing for her expected evening with William, she drove to the Queens Community Center where Marcus had mentioned he volunteered, wanting to see this side of his life that he had described with such passion. She found him in the center's workshop area, teaching a group of teenagers and young adults basic plumbing skills. The contrast between her family's mansion and this humble community space was stark, but Marcus moved through both environments with the same natural confidence and genuine care. "Miss Victoria," called out Jasmine, a teenage girl whose face lit up when she noticed Victoria watching from the doorway. "Are you here to learn about pipe fitting too?" Marcus looked up with surprise and pleasure. "Victoria, what brings you to our little workshop? I wanted to see your community work firsthand," Victoria replied, genuinely interested in understanding this part of Marcus's life. "And please, everyone should call me Victoria." For the next 2 hours, Victoria watched Marcus teach practical skills with remarkable patience and encouragement. He treated each student's questions seriously, celebrated small victories enthusiastically, and never showed frustration when concepts required repeated explanation. "Mr. Marcus taught me how to fix my grandmother's sink last month," explained Carlos, a young man who couldn't have been older than 20. "Saved our family hundreds of dollars and gave me confidence that I can solve problems myself. The goal isn't just teaching technical skills," Marcus explained to Victoria as students worked on their practice projects. "It's helping people realize they're capable of more than they ever imagined. When you understand how systems work, you stop feeling helpless in your own environment." After the class ended and students began cleaning up, Marcus walked Victoria through the community center, showing her various programs that served local families: job training, childcare, tutoring, and nutrition education. "This place is incredible," Victoria said, genuinely moved by what she saw. "How long have you been volunteering here?" "About 5 years. I started coming after my father passed away. He always said that success means nothing if you don't use it to help others climb higher." Marcus's voice carried both sadness and inspiration. He worked construction his entire life, but never forgot that community matters more than individual achievement. As they sat in the center's small cafe area, sharing coffee from a vending machine, Victoria learned about Marcus's childhood in Queens, raised by parents who emphasized education and service despite their modest means. His father had taught him that every skill learned was both a gift and a responsibility to share with others. "What motivates you, Victoria? When you're not managing foundation events, what makes you feel genuinely fulfilled?" The question pierced through her social armor in a way that was becoming familiar when talking to Marcus. "Honestly, I haven't felt genuinely fulfilled in years. I manage charity events and write checks, but I rarely see the direct impact of our work." Victoria met his eyes. "But watching you teach today, seeing how you empower people to solve their own problems, that looked like real fulfillment. What would you change about your foundation work if you could start over?" "I'd want to be more hands-on, more directly connected to the people we're supposed to be helping. Maybe create programs that teach skills rather than just providing temporary assistance." Victoria surprised herself with the passion in her voice. "I'd want to build something that creates lasting change rather than just maintaining charitable traditions." "Those are incredible ideas, and you have the resources and connections to make them reality." As they talked deeper into the evening, Victoria realized that Marcus saw possibilities in her that she had forgotten existed. He treated her environmental interests and social concerns as valuable rather than just inherited obligations. "Marcus, can I tell you something? In my social world, most relationships are based on maintaining traditions and meeting family expectations. Meeting someone who values my actual thoughts and dreams is—" She paused, searching for words. "It's become my weakness, in the best possible way." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you make me want to be better than I am. To use my advantages for genuine good rather than just social performance. You make me feel capable of growth instead of just maintenance." As Victoria drove home that night, she realized that Marcus had shown her something precious, a vision of service that was both meaningful and joyful, work that served others while fulfilling her own deepest needs. For the first time in her life, she began imagining a future that looked different from the one everyone expected her to live. Saturday evening arrived with all the pressure and expectation Victoria had been dreading. The St. Regis rooftop restaurant sparkled with city lights as William Ashford waited at their private table, confidence radiating from his perfectly tailored tuxedo and the small velvet box positioned beside his champagne glass. "Victoria, you look absolutely radiant tonight," William said as she was seated across from him. "I've been planning this evening for weeks." "Thank you, William. This is quite an elaborate setting. Only the finest for the woman I intend to marry." William's smile was practiced and certain. "Victoria, we've known each other our entire lives. Our families are perfectly matched. Our social circles overlap completely. And I believe we could build a very comfortable life together." As William outlined his vision for their future, strategic philanthropy, social prominence, coordinated family legacies, Victoria found her mind wandering to Marcus's description of his community workshop and his genuine desire to help people develop their own capabilities. "I've already spoken with both our mothers about announcing our engagement at your family's Christmas gala," William continued smoothly. "The timing would be perfect for a spring wedding." The evening became more uncomfortable when William opened the velvet box to reveal an enormous diamond ring and began discussing their wedding timeline with casual assumption that her acceptance was predetermined. The next morning brought the confrontation Victoria had been unconsciously dreading. Her mother arrived at the mansion with fresh flowers, celebratory champagne, and newspaper society sections featuring speculation about the previous evening. "Darling, everyone is talking about last night. William looked so confident, and the ring choice was absolutely perfect. Caroline settled into Victoria's private sitting room with obvious satisfaction. "When are you planning to make the announcement official?" Before Victoria could respond, Stephanie arrived with bridal magazines and barely contained excitement. "Victoria, I couldn't sleep. William called this morning asking about your favorite flowers and wedding preferences. We need to start planning the engagement party immediately." The pressure intensified as both women began making decisions about Victoria's future without consulting her actual feelings, discussing guest lists and venue options as if her consent was unnecessary. "Wait," Victoria said finally. "William hasn't actually proposed yet, and I haven't agreed to anything." "But darling, everyone knows it's just a formality," Caroline replied with certainty. "William is perfect for you. Successful, handsome, from an excellent family, socially appropriate. What possible objection could you have?" The crisis deepened that afternoon when the family's head of security, James Morrison, requested a private meeting with uncomfortable news. "Miss Whitmore, I need to bring something to your attention regarding potential security concerns. We've noticed unusual service patterns at the estate. Repeated plumbing calls that seem unnecessary, given the mansion's excellent maintenance record." Victoria felt her heart sink. "What are you suggesting, James?" "I'm suggesting that someone may be taking advantage of your kindness for personal gain. The plumber you've been calling has made 7 visits in 3 weeks for increasingly minor issues." James's voice carried protective concern. "I've run a background check. He's a legitimate technician, but his frequent presence could create inappropriate situations or security vulnerabilities. Marcus Rivera is a skilled professional who's provided excellent service. Miss Whitmore, regardless of his technical abilities, the optics of repeated private interactions with service staff could be misinterpreted, especially with your engagement to Mr. Ashford being announced soon." After James left, Victoria realized that her growing feelings for Marcus were becoming visible to others, creating exactly the kind of scandal her family would never tolerate. That evening, instead of calling Marcus about the minor heating adjustment she had planned to discuss, Victoria sat alone in her study, staring out at the manicured gardens that represented generations of Whitmore success and wondering if love was worth risking everything she had ever known. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. Sunday evening, unable to sleep or focus on anything else, Victoria made a decision that felt both terrifying and necessary. She drove to the small diner near Marcus's apartment that he had mentioned during one of their conversations, hoping to find him and have the honest discussion that could change both their lives. She found him at a corner booth, reviewing contractor licensing materials and sustainable building plans, working toward his goals with the same focused determination she had come to admire. "Victoria?" Marcus looked up with surprise and concern. "Are you okay? You look upset. I need to talk to you about something important, something I should have said weeks ago." Victoria sat across from him, her heart racing. "Marcus, I need to tell you that you've become my weakness in ways I never expected." The admission hung in the air between them. Marcus set down his study materials and gave her his complete attention. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I've been falling in love with you, and it terrifies me because it makes no sense according to everything I was taught about appropriate relationships." Victoria's voice shook with vulnerability. "You make me want to be better than I am, to use my advantages for genuine good rather than just social performance." Marcus's expression showed both tenderness and deep concern. "Victoria, I've been falling in love with you too. From those first conversations when you treated me like my thoughts and knowledge mattered, when you saw potential in me that most people in your position would never notice." His voice was soft but serious. "But I also understand what being with me would cost you." "What do you mean?" "I mean your family, your social position, your inheritance. You've never lived without those securities, and I can't provide you with the lifestyle you've always known." Marcus took her hands gently. "People in your world don't marry plumbers from Queens. They don't even publicly associate with us beyond professional necessity." Victoria felt tears beginning to fall. What if I told you that all those external securities feel meaningless without someone who truly sees and values who I am as a person? And what if I told you that you've shown me more respect and genuine interest than anyone in my life? That you make me believe my dreams are achievable? Marcus squeezed her hands. But Victoria, I also can't ask you to give up everything you've ever known for someone who can't provide you with financial security or social acceptance. What if I told you that financial security feels empty when it comes from relationships that don't value my authentic self? What if I said that social acceptance from people who judge others by bank accounts rather than character isn't worth having? Then I'd say you're stronger and braver than most people ever get the chance to be. They sat in the quiet diner, holding hands and processing the magnitude of what they were discussing. So, what do we do? Victoria whispered. We decide whether love is worth the courage it takes to choose it over convention, whether authenticity matters more than approval. Marcus met her eyes. We decide if what we found together is strong enough to overcome what everyone else will think about it. Everyone expects me to marry William Ashford. He's appropriate, suitable, socially acceptable. Our marriage would maintain family traditions and meet everyone's expectations. And what do you want? I want someone who challenges me to grow, who values my thoughts and dreams, who makes me excited about building a meaningful life together. Victoria looked into his warm eyes. I want you to be my weakness, Marcus, but also my strength, the person who helps me become who I was meant to be. Then let's choose each other, Marcus said softly. Let's choose love over expectation, authenticity over approval, and build something real together, regardless of what anyone else thinks. When they kissed in that modest diner, surrounded by contractor licensing books and sustainable building plans, both Victoria and Marcus knew they were choosing the most challenging path possible. But they were choosing it together, choosing love over convenience, choosing each other over everyone else's plans for their lives. Monday morning brought the explosion Victoria had been anticipating with dread. William Ashford arrived at Whitmore Manor unannounced, carrying an elaborate flower arrangement and wearing the confident expression of a man who expected his proposal to be accepted without question. Victoria, darling, I hope you've had time to consider our conversation Saturday evening. I've already spoken with both our families about the engagement announcement timeline. William set the flowers on the antique table with proprietorial certainty. Everyone is thrilled about our future together. William, I haven't actually agreed to anything. Of course you have. We're perfect for each other, and everyone agrees this relationship makes sense for both our families. He sat down without invitation, pulling out his phone to show her preliminary wedding venue photographs. I've already had my attorney draft documents combining our charitable foundations for maximum impact. Before Victoria could respond, her mother and Stephanie arrived together with wedding planning materials and obvious excitement. Darling, we've been discussing venues and themes. Caroline spread photographs across Victoria's sitting room. The country club is available next spring, and we think a traditional ceremony would showcase both families perfectly. I've also contacted the top wedding planners in the Hamptons, Stephanie added breathlessly. They're all available to consult this week. Victoria felt trapped as the three of them made decisions about her future without consulting her actual wishes, planning a life she had never agreed to live. The situation exploded when James Morrison knocked on the sitting room door with a grim expression and several printed surveillance photographs. Miss Whitmore, I need to discuss an urgent security matter. These photos were taken over the past 3 weeks, showing repeated unauthorized meetings between you and the plumbing contractor in various locations outside the estate. The photos showed Victoria and Marcus at the diner at the community center, walking together after his work sessions, images that had clearly been taken without their knowledge. I'm recommending immediate termination of all contracts with this individual and implementation of standard security protocols to prevent further inappropriate contact, James continued coldly. You had us followed. Victoria's voice rose with anger and disbelief. Standard protection protocols for high-profile family members, especially when they begin associating with individuals from questionable backgrounds who might have ulterior motives. William studied the photographs with growing anger and disgust. Victoria, what is this? You've been carrying on some sort of relationship with a plumber while I've been planning our future. His name is Marcus Rivera, and he's a skilled professional and decent man who's shown me more genuine respect than... He's a nobody taking advantage of your naive kindness, William interrupted harshly. How could you be so foolish? This man is obviously using you for money or social connections. That's completely wrong. Marcus has never asked me for anything. Victoria, her mother's voice was ice-cold with disappointment. If you don't end this embarrassing infatuation immediately and accept William's proposal, we will have no choice but to reconsider your inheritance and position in the family trust. Your behavior is reflecting poorly on 4 generations of Whitmore reputation. After everyone left, Victoria sat alone in her family's historic mansion, staring out at the manicured grounds that represented everything she was about to lose, realizing that all her wealth and privilege was being held hostage to force her into a life she didn't want. Meanwhile, Marcus received a phone call at work from Antonio's plumbing services, informing him that the Whitmore family had terminated their service contract and specifically requested that he never return to their property. When he tried to call Victoria to understand what had happened, he discovered that her phone number had been changed. That evening, both Victoria and Marcus sat in their respective worlds, facing the ultimate test of whether their love was stronger than the social forces trying to destroy it. Tuesday morning, Victoria walked into the mansion's formal dining room, where her family had assembled for what they clearly expected to be her surrender. William sat at the polished table with renewed confidence, engagement ring box prominently displayed beside his coffee cup, surrounded by wedding planning materials and expectant family members. Victoria, darling, I trust you've come to your senses about this ridiculous phase, her mother said without preamble. William has been incredibly patient, but it's time to accept his proposal and put this embarrassing episode behind us. The family trust attorneys have also prepared documents regarding your inheritance, added her uncle, the family's financial advisor. Your access to the Whitmore fortune depends on making appropriate choices that maintain our family's reputation and values. Victoria looked around the table at the expectant faces. Her mother, William, family lawyers, and relatives who had known her since childhood, but were willing to disown her for refusing to marry according to their preferences. For a moment, she felt the overwhelming weight of everything she was about to lose. The mansion, her inheritance, her family's approval, the only life she had ever known. Then she thought about Marcus's words. Let's choose love over expectation, authenticity over approval. I need to tell you all something, Victoria said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I'm not going to marry William. I'm in love with Marcus Rivera, and I'm choosing to build a life with him. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria, William's voice was cold with humiliation and anger. You cannot seriously be choosing a plumber over everything we could build together. I'm choosing someone who sees my worth beyond my bank account, who values my thoughts and dreams, who challenges me to be the person I was meant to be rather than just maintaining what I inherited. Victoria stood up, feeling stronger with each word. I'm choosing authentic love over convenient arrangement. Her mother stood up abruptly, her face pale with shock and social horror. Then you're no longer a Whitmore. Your access to family resources is terminated immediately. You have 24 hours to remove your personal belongings from this house. I understand, Victoria replied calmly, and I accept the consequences of choosing love over security, authenticity over approval. 2 hours later, Victoria stood outside the modest apartment building in Queens where Marcus lived. Having gotten his address from the community center director, she knocked on his door with shaking hands, carrying only a single suitcase and her determination to choose love over everything else. Marcus opened the door, his expression showing surprise, hope, and deep concern. Victoria, what are you doing here? I came to tell you that you're not my weakness, Marcus. You're my strength. You help me see who I can become when I'm not limited by other people's expectations. She took his hands. I choose you. I choose us. I've lost my inheritance, my family, my old life, and I don't regret it. Marcus pulled her inside, his eyes searching her face with amazement and concern. Victoria, do you understand what you've given up? You've lost everything you've ever known. I've lost everything that was built on other people's plans, rather than my own choices. But I've found something real. Someone who loves me for who I actually am, not what I can provide socially or financially. She moved closer to him. Marcus, you showed me that true strength comes from serving others, from building something meaningful together. Are you sure? Because once we do this, there's no going back to Whitmore Manor. I've never been more sure of anything. You're my weakness and my strength, Marcus. You make me vulnerable in the best way while giving me courage to become who I was meant to be. When they kissed, surrounded by his contractor licensing books and sustainable building plans, both Victoria and Marcus knew they were beginning the most challenging and most authentic chapter of their lives. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. Victoria stood in the bright, welcoming office of Rivera Whitmore Community Development, the sustainable housing nonprofit she and Marcus had founded together in Queens. She wore simple professional attire and carried a tablet displaying the presentation she was about to give to a group of community leaders and housing advocates. This year, we've completed 12 affordable housing units that incorporate sustainable energy systems, reducing utility costs by 60% for working families, Victoria explained to the engaged audience of residents and local officials. Our approach combines environmental sustainability with economic empowerment and community education. Marcus stood beside her, now a licensed contractor and the organization's director of construction innovation, wearing a suit they had purchased together from their modest but growing nonprofit salaries. Every project includes job training opportunities for community members, teaching them the skills to maintain and improve their own housing. Marcus explained, clicking to show photos of residents learning solar panel installation and water conservation techniques. We're not just building homes. We're building community capacity and individual empowerment. After the presentation, as community members discussed plans to expand their model to other neighborhoods, a reporter from the local newspaper approached them. Ms. Whitmore, do you ever regret leaving your family's wealth to work in community development? Victoria looked around the room filled with families whose housing costs had been dramatically reduced by their projects. Then at Marcus, whose eyes held the same passion and purpose she felt every day. 2 years ago, I lived in a mansion, but felt empty inside. I had inherited enormous wealth, but wasn't contributing anything meaningful to the world. She reached for Marcus's hand. Now I wake up every day knowing that our work is helping families build stable, sustainable lives while creating community-owned solutions. I've never felt wealthier. And Mr. Rivera, how has this partnership changed your approach to community development? Victoria brought business expertise and resource networks that transformed my technical ideas into scalable programs, Marcus replied. But more than that, she brought a commitment to social justice that comes from choosing service over status. Together, we're proving that love can indeed create lasting positive change. The reporter smiled. What's next for Rivera Whitmore Community Development? We're expanding to 3 more neighborhoods and launching a community-owned energy cooperative, Victoria answered. Our goal is to show that sustainable development should be community-controlled and community-beneficial, not just profitable for outside investors. As the evening wound down and they walked to their shared apartment, modest but filled with the warmth of genuine partnership and shared mission, Victoria reflected on how completely her life had transformed. Do you remember what I said that first day when you fixed our plumbing crisis? She asked Marcus, as they prepared dinner together in their small kitchen. You said I was more attractive than you expected, Marcus replied, pulling her close with a smile. And I was right, but not just physically. You showed me that true attractiveness comes from competence, integrity, and genuine care for others. Victoria smiled back. You became my weakness in the best possible way. You made me vulnerable enough to grow, strong enough to choose authenticity over approval. Their love story had become a testament that when two people choose each other over society's expectations, when they build something together based on shared values rather than shared privilege, they create not just personal happiness, but positive change that transforms entire communities. Victoria and Marcus had discovered that sometimes the greatest strength comes from admitting your weaknesses and choosing love even when it costs everything else you've ever known. And they lived happily, purposefully, and authentically ever after, proving that real wealth comes not from what you inherit, but from what you choose to build with the person who helps you become your best self.